Waking up, I turned around and went out in the hallway. It was full of people this time. Nurses, patients. I was back in the real world, or so I thought. I couldn't be sure. I still can't. One of the nurses dropped her tray and stood in shock. I turned around to see what scared her, but there was nothing there. I was the thing that scared her. I had gotten up and was completely healed from something awful. My awakening caused a commotion in the hospital. Everybody wanted to see me. Everyone had a theory about my recovery. I had healed after being cut up and ripped apart, and I had done it at 10 times the speed in which I should have. Not only that, but my scars were gone too. Almost no trace on my body would have even hinted at what had happened to me. The rips and the cuts had these amazingly fine likes of new flesh. It didn't feel like something new, it felt like it was always there. Some of the doctors had a poll about when I would be revealed to be a fraud. Others were exited and wanted to rekindle their med school days where they had studied exotic diseases and were imagining their careers. Old cases, new cases, some even thought it was a divine miracle. It wouldn't be the first time someone claimed to have found a magical cure or claimed God, angel touch, but still there were the more level-headed doctors who didn't waste their time with exotic theories and divine intervention. Dr. Baker was a doctor who wanted to actually help without worrying about fame. Chapter 1. After I woke up, I was put in an examination room until someone could fetch the head diagnostician. I spent the time thinking about my life and my dream. Was it some kind of memory about what had happened to me, or something else? I tried closing my eyes again, but nothing. I was still here in the real world. Was it the real world? I couldn't be sure of anything anymore, and that moment when I ran into the darkness, I felt a rush. Something fierce, powerful. I didn't know why I was attracted to the rush, but I was. I didn't understand why the hollow was there, and I'm still wondering if I should waste time trying to force my memories back. I knew it was there somewhere, but I couldn't see it or feel it. But I was still sure something remained, only I couldn't touch it. It was there, but it wasn't. As I sat, my scent was improving and my ears started to feel clearer, but something was still missing. I was sitting there trying to remember what it was that brought on that delusion when I noticed a noise around me. It was a fly hovering around, and then I noticed something else hovering. Outside in the hallway, some doctors had ganged up. They wanted to see what all the commotion was about. They were talking about research they studied back at med school. Usually I wouldn't really care for them, but their presence annoyed that part of me I knew was there but couldn't feel. I was trying to focus and they were a distraction, but that wasn't it. There was something else about them that made it angry. Something was growing beneath the surface. It made me feel a vein inside my throat as my ear warmed up, almost burned. I saw it finally. It was looking through me. But it wasn't controlling me. It wanted me to feel its emotion so that I could myself bring it forward. It wanted me to agree with it and to want to slash their throats as much as it did. Before I could gather the taste up in my mouth, that sense, it felt like hunger needing to be filled. The hospital's head doctor came in and took over my focus. Behind him were the head diagnostician, and somewhere in the back was a man in a suit who seemed to be a layer or an accountant of some kind. There was something about Dr. Baker that felt all right. He was the chef surgeon, and a town favorite I had seen many times before in my past life. Now he was just some stranger telling his colleagues to wait for him outside. Dr. Baker introduced himself politely and asked me some simple questions. He seemed to generally want to help me without all that boring research nonsense his doctors were ranting on about. The thing inside me didn't seem to hate him as much as it hated the others. I trusted him for some reason. Baker was annoyed by the attention all those other doctors were giving me. Kind of disturbing in a way for something like that to be annoying. I guess I understood it in a way, knowing all those doctors and what they could be doing instead of conking at me. This one case, at that point I realized I was talking to myself, not talking directly out loud but verbalizing in my head. Dr. Baker looked at me and smiled, then he sat down and took my blood pressure, 160. High. He seemed worried, but I felt fine. Then we started talking about what had happened, what had attacked me. When I explained about my amnesia, he carefully hid his worries. The doctor told me about Sarah, how she stood by my side for all that time, how scared she was about my survival. He said she didn't believe him when he told her how well my wounds were healing. She had burst into tears and excused herself. An hour later he saw her trying to hide her red eyes and runny nose. She had gone outside to cry, trying to be strong, not ready to show any weakness. It was cold and soon after the winter season was coming. Who was she to me? A beautiful girl who spends her time sitting in a chair praying and crying for me. How close were we and what would happen when we met? Sarah, I was told, was a bright young brunette girl. Great smile and usually a beautiful attitude. The doctor had known her parents since she was a little girl and he told me how utterly devastated she was about what happened. She'd refused to leave my side after visiting ours, and if it weren't for the doctor's relationship with her parents she would have been removed. She would sleep in her closet and forget to eat. She read to me and reminded me of old childhood stories we had. Come back, she would say. Come back and be with me. I remembered those words the second he showed me her picture. I loved her just by hearing that. I loved the feeling I got when I smelled the blanket on the chair. I think I'd loved her for a very long time. Then I realized I wasn't paying attention anymore. The doctor had taken the blood pressure bag thing off my hand and put a thermometer in my mouth. It was time to pull it out. The doctor and I finished up and then he gave me some advice, how I should handle meeting her, what I could expect when I met her. But mainly he warned me not to let her slip away. Girls like that don't wait forever. That barely even happens in the movies. I took his advice and readied myself to meet her. I went back to my room and started thinking. I picked up a piece of chocolate from the basket and thought I should share it with her when she came. I was nervous, almost like I was going on my first date. My heart started racing when I heard her footsteps coming towards the room. But then nothing. It was only the nurse. She came to change my sheets. It was the same nurse who had dropped her tray. I didn't pay much attention, but she was scared and exited at the same time. The tension she felt could overflow the room. I really didn't care. I didn't even feel the way my ear warmed up when she came in. It was the thing inside me focusing on its prey. The nurse left. A couple of minutes passed as I sat there waiting and I got so very frustrated. I was nervous, so I opened the chocolate bar and dug in. The taste seemed foreign to me. It was almost too sweet and too bitter at the same time. I ate more than I'd expected. Then she came in and the chocolate bar was too small. Only one, maybe two bites left for Sarah. I made a fool out of myself when I reached out to hand it to her and asked if she wanted some. But she didn't refuse. She grabbed it and ate it faster than I had. Got any more? She asked. I pointed to the basket and told her to take it. Take all of it. She walked to the basket and grabbed a handful of sweets. As I watched her, suddenly I got a flash. Her in a white t-shirt. It felt like summer, but the trees looked like March. Sarah turned around and sat next to me on the bed. She acted brave, like there was nothing bothering her, but I could tell she was only barely holding it in. So, I've got amnesia. Can't remember anything. I stopped for a moment, looked at her, except just now. I saw you in a white t-shirt. It felt like summer, but it wasn't. Not really. I think, it was winter, but we had a heat wave. She paused for a moment. She was hiding her face, looking at the candy, then at this clock on the wall and out into the hallway. That was 11 months ago. You're not a very good actress, I said, scaring her. Then she put the candy down and stood still for a minute or so. I was about to open my mouth when she answered, I'm sorry, it has been hard for me, but I know that's no excuse for me to. Excuse for what? I should be stronger for you. Why? Why should you be stronger? You're barely my age, aren't you? Why would you need to act strong now of all times? Because I wasn't strong enough. Strong enough for what? I don't know. Life. That didn't sound like an answer. I insisted, pressured her from the start. What was wrong with me? I only just met her and I was ranting at her. That wasn't a real question. Pause. Why are you shouting at me? Why aren't you crying? Sarah, you shouldn't act bravely for me. You shouldn't keep it all in. I want you to tell me what you're afraid of. I want to know what makes you cry. Tell me, or I wake up next to her again. She's sitting on the bed looking pretty. My eyes got this little thick pressure drops from my brain. Sarah looked at me. She can sense my unease, confusion. So she asked me if I wanted to break the tension. I said yes. Sarah took me downstairs to the cafeteria. I could tell from the look in her eyes, she was getting better. I kept looking around us as we were running through the hall. If someone recognized me, we would be disturbed and annoyed. I didn't want her disturbed. She was so happy and I liked it when she was happy. She is so beautiful when she smiles. She gives of this energy whenever something good happens. After reaching the cafeteria, we sat down and talked. I was still nervous but happy. Just being around her brightened my day. She asked me how I was feeling, how my wounds were doing. I still had the bandages on me. The doctors had forgotten to take them off. Then when I showed her, she couldn't believe it. Last week I was broken, bleeding right in front of her. Now I'm whole. Sarah told me how bad it was, how my wounds would cut down to the bone, how there was so much blood lost that I had barely a gallon left. The doctor had told her how well I was doing, but it was impossible. She just couldn't understand. Then I told her about the dream. Both of them. She was interested, focused and worried, but nothing like the way I just saw her in whatever that was. Weak, afraid, repressed. She wanted me to be safe, healthy, but also sane. There was a part of her which respected me deeply, although she didn't want me to feel any pain or fear from that memory of what happened. She knew I wanted answers and that I would force them out if I could. She knew me so closely, I couldn't help but wonder if we'd ever been more than just friends. I was wrong but close. We had been together for so long, had grown so close that it freaked her out when anyone even hinted at the idea. She denied anything ever happening. I just looked at her and nodded, apparently believing her, but there was something about her tone. It made curious about our relationship. Sarah spent the next few hours telling me about our past, but mostly she was sticking to a sort of story, the version of our relationship where we both were interested in something else. Whenever I hinted at something about it, she diverted, asking me how I felt. I told her I would try to take it easy for a while, but at the same time I was growing a kind of silent addiction for my darkness. The adrenaline rush I felt in the dream when I ran into the hollow felt so liberating. I couldn't stop thinking about it when I wasn't with her. Night came, I was alone in my room. Sarah snuck in to see me. She was so gloating, happy. She felt like a trickster fooling the alarms with what I had taught her. I didn't know anything about it, but Sarah told me she knew how to go around the alarm systems with something I had taught her and that I should be proud of her. Her constant smiling confused me, but I figured it was the time. She didn't look like she had gotten a lot of sleep lately. She felt so energetic and nice. Later on she ran out of it, tired herself out. Sarah fell asleep and dropped into my lap. I taped her, but then she waved my hand away like it was a fly. She cuddled up, threw one of her shoes away and came into the bed. I almost tried to stop her, but then her lip distracted me. She fell asleep and I was left with this pretty beautiful thing in my arms. She was so sweet, and then I closed in for a kiss. But kissing Sarah like this was just too weird, so I kissed her cheek instead. Next night we would stand on the rooftop and I would again try and kiss her. The day after that I'd make up an excuse to see her before she had the time to meet me at the hospital. But then I failed, I overslept. Then I saw her again in my room. She wore this sweet white dress and was carrying a bag with my things. I stood up, picked up the bag and went into the bathroom. Then I came out wearing something yellow, a little bit too tight, like it was from last year or something. Sarah urged me on to move it. I had no idea where we were going so fast. The Dr. Baker met us on the way out of the hospital. Sarah seemed sweet. She even gave him a hug, and then we excused me and made our way to the parking lot. There we took her car out of its spot and went on our way to the place she wanted to show me. It was a great big surprise, and Sarah seemed happy until I noticed this tear running down her cheek. When Sarah noticed it in the mirror, she immediately whipped it away. She smiled and made some joke about me staring out of the window like a puppy. I was looking away when I saw her noticing me. She turned on the radio and we listened to pop music, some Katy Perry song about fireworks of something. Then we got there. It was Sarah's house, all bright and sunny like something fake out of a movie. Then I asked her how long she'd been living here. It's so strange of you when you say stuff like that. I was living here since I was 6 years old. And you lived next door since you were 9. Which one is it? I asked. Then she points to the right, the house over. Your parents used to live there before you moved into your new home closer to town. You moved even deeper after they died. Don't know why, but you loved building up an apartment inside this dusty old loft. I looked at it, surprised that she'd tell me so little so quickly, rapidly, and expect me to just go with her before finishing my questions. Come on, we've got to hurry. Sarah tugged me by the hand, pulling me to the front door, and then opened it. As I looked inside, the place was covered in walls of pictures and school reports and a bunch of DVDs filled with all my favorite movies and TV series. I stood there for a moment taking it in. Then I looked at Sarah standing to my left and told her, thank you. This place is filled with all I could find about you, me, everyone. She answered, why did you cry in the car? And then she stood, in silence.